Well, hello there. This is Hugh Munro Neely, and I'm speaking to you from Pordenone, Italy, in the area of the Friuli in northeast Italy, where we're at the Pordenone Silent Film Festival, better known to Italians as Le Giornate del Cinema Muto. We're having a wonderful time here, and you should be here also if you love film, if you have a fascination for the history of film and for all the incredible things that can be found before film developed the ability to synchronize sound. The Pordenone Silent Film Festival is, as I believe, the largest festival in the world devoted exclusively to silent film. And it's an exciting place to be. We have had now 2 days. We're in our third day out of a full week-long festival that goes every day, and with all kinds of things, all of it presented with live music, which is something that I immensely enjoy because I think that music is an incredibly powerful part of motion pictures, whether they're silent or even with sound. So we have here a terrific thing. Last night I saw a extraordinarily rare film starring Connie Talmadge called The Temperamental Wife, with a script by Anita Loos, just legendary screenwriter. And this film had not been seen in probably 80 years or more. It was brought out, restored, and then brought to this festival just for this event. We have another series of short films that are calling Nasty Women. Nasty Women, that is to say, women who actually take charge and manage to survive and indeed triumph over the not so nice men in their lives. A whole series of short films starting all the way back to like 1901. This is a pattern that they were able to find a whole series for. Also, in the course of the program, we've seen Lady Windermere's Fan, Ernest Lubitsch's absolutely masterpiece of social story based on the Oscar Wilde play. Later on, we'll see a French production of Casanova. We'll see all kinds of wonderful things. I am here now for probably about the 10th or 12th time. I've been coming to the Pordenone Festival each October, about once every 2 or 3 years when I can, because I'm based all the way in Los Angeles. I'm a film historian. I've been a filmmaker, making documentary films about silent film actresses like Louise Brooks and Mary Pickford and Clara Bow and Marion Davies. And I love this part of history, looking back into the 1920s or earlier, 1910s, even the late 19th century. The films tell us something about the kinds of stories that people liked back then, many times very similar to what we like today, but also somewhat different at times. They tell us how people lived, how they looked, how they dressed, they walked, all kinds of fascinating cultural things. But they're also just plain fun. So I always enjoy coming here. Where the people are so friendly and where the music is so good and where the presentations of the films are so beautifully handled on a very large screen in a beautiful contemporary theater, the Verdi Theater in downtown Pordenone. So I hope that you will consider take a look for Le Giornate del Cinema Muto online or the Pordenone Silent Film Festival. And this year, in fact, they are having an online version of their event, a much simplified version in which they're showing some of the highlights from previous years. But it's a great way to get a start on learning what you can find here. Of course, the music will not be live. The audience will not be all around you and enjoying this kind of wonderful entertainment. But it's a great place to start. And then you can come here next year, perhaps, when we will hopefully be completely post-pandemic, as opposed to partially post-pandemic. Right now, they're taking great care with us. They've taken extra time in between each movie to completely clean the theater, and they are setting us all out in reserved seats, every other seat in the theater. And of course, people are wearing masks during the actual performance. But it's been a terrific festival so far, and and I'm looking forward to the rest of this week. After that, I plan to move on and do a little research at one of the film archives in Europe. And that's something I've been doing for a number of years, looking for, in my case, looking particularly for American films which may not survive in America. Now, that surprises some people, but really it shouldn't, because the American film industry has always been an international industry and has always had distribution in other countries. And of course, for many, many years, many of you probably know, that motion pictures were printed on a very volatile material, often referred to as cellulose nitrate, the base of the film. And that material was not always chemically stable. Sometimes it has been, but other times it isn't. And it's, of course, affected by temperature and it's affected by humidity. And as it decomposes slowly, the films disappear. And so in America, there are quite a few films that were produced really back in the silent era and even in the early sound era that are simply cannot be found anymore because they just dissolved, or they were recycled because they could reclaim some silver from them, or something else, some other accident happened and they just aren't in America anymore. But in Europe, there have been film archives, many different countries collecting films of all kinds for, well, pretty much since World War II or before. And therefore, there are American films that cannot be found in America anymore that can be found in Europe or in other film archives across the globe, frankly. Here at Pordenone, we have people attending from all around the world, from Europe, from America, from Africa, from Asia, and we have films from every place. In fact, one of the series of films this year that they're looking at are silent films from Korea. Learning about that. So the first films we've seen on the first Korea program were all ethnographic films, things about how people lived or their culture, how people got married in Korea, what the ceremony was like and what the preparation was like. Those are ethnographic, but now coming up, we'll be having some fictional films from Korea in our next Korean program. So you learn a lot about the world when you come to Pordenone, as well as just Italy, or as well as just America, or some other country. Later this week, we will have the wonderful Czech film Eroticon, starring Ita Rina, a beautiful silent film, just stunning, which is available on DVD if you happen to be in the Czech Republic, but you may not be able to find it so easily somewhere else. And we'll be seeing it, of course, on a huge, wonderful screen with absolutely perfect projection, and a live score composed by a Czechoslovakian composer, or a Czech composer, I should say. So I'm looking forward to that immensely. This is an international festival in every way. For myself, my primary interest, of course, has been traditionally in American films, but I want to find out what other countries did at the same time. I've been working for many years, once upon a time for the Mary Pickford Foundation, where I was their in-house historian and archivist. And then moving on, I have a nonprofit called the Institute for Film Education, and our job is to find films that do not survive in America in foreign archives. Now, a great deal of that information is already available online, but that doesn't tell you what the film actually looks like and what condition it's in detail. And so I've been traveling when I can, when we have the funding from our supporters, to foreign archives, looking at American films they have that aren't known to survive in more than one or two other archives around the world, or that aren't known to survive in America. And we found some interesting things through the years. One Connie Talmadge film was found and restored by the UCLA Film and Television Archive. Another film with Colleen Moore, a wonderful actress, was found and restored from the archive in the Czech Republic, from Prague. As well as a print found in Prague and also found in Moscow, or rather in Russia, at Gosfilmofond, of the wonderful Dolores Del Rio film, Ramona, a story that was made into a film at least 3 different times in America and twice in Mexico. But the silent film version from 1928 was considered lost for many, many years. And we were able to find it in the archive in Prague, and then our wonderful Library of Congress restored it, preserved it, and restored it. So it's been a very exciting thing to do. Meanwhile, I go around and I lecture on silent film or on film history, and I try and keep current with what's happening in Los Angeles and what's happening with the film archives. It's fascinating work. Wish I could do more of it. In any event, thank you for listening. I hope you are intrigued by the Pordenone Silent Film Festival. It is now in its 40th year. In fact, we've got 40 years of this festival going on, and it will be continuing next year. And I cannot wait. In fact, next year I believe they're going to have a retrospective of films, Ruritanian films. Now, what is a Ruritanian film? You may be familiar with the novel based by Anthony Hope, or one of the movie versions made from it, The Prisoner of Zenda. And that was a story that took place in a mythical, tiny European kingdom somewhere, something like Liechtenstein or Switzerland or what, but it was actually a mythical country. And it was so popular in its day, in the late 19th century, that there were a ton of other stories set in mythical, tiny European kingdoms. One of the most famous being the novel Graustark, which spawned a series of films as well. And then Edgar Rice Burroughs' novel, The Mad King, also set in, again, a thing. And then there were sequels to The Prisoner of Zenda, of course, also. And it turns out that, and I just learned this from the information that came with the film festival, that there were something like 60 some odd film stories just in Italy alone, made over about a period of about 50 years, all about little European kingdoms, all set in there with usually some kind of terrific scandal over the monarchy, or a man who's traveling from America, and it turns out he looks just like the king. And therefore they're going to arrange to have it deposed. How many times can you do this story? I don't know, but I'm going to find out if I come back next year when they will present a whole series of roughly Ruritanian, that is to say, little fictional stories set in funny little European kingdoms that don't really exist. It's the kind of thing that you get, because here they will do series of films around a similar theme. One of those this year is Korean films. Another one this year is the Nasty Women that I mentioned otherwise. Then they're also doing a retrospective on a wonderful German actress by the name of Ellen Richter, and her husband, director Willy Wolf, who had a terrific career in silent films, was tremendously famous at the time and barely known today. You can rediscover her if you come here this year. Who knows what you'll discover if you come next year. So thank you for listening. This is a wonderful festival. It's been going very well. It's in its 40th year. It's very economical to attend. It does not cost a lot of money. You just have to get here, and you do have to go online and ask for invitation, because that is the way they do it. So take a look at the Pordenone Silent Film Festival. also known as Le Giornate del Cinema Muto, here in Pordenone, Italy. Wonderful place to be in October. Thank you. Goodbye.